The city of Accra was alive with restless horns and neon lights, but for Rose, it felt like silence. She walked the cracked pavements of Jamestown, her worn sandals slapping against puddles from an earlier drizzle. Her cocoa-brown skin glistened faintly under the street lamps, her hazel eyes dull with exhaustion. Once, she had dreamed of becoming a fashion designer, her sketches bursting with color and rhythm. But those dreams were long buried. Family had abandoned her when debts swallowed their home, friends drifted when poverty became her shadow, and the man she trusted most broke her heart, leaving scars deeper than time could erase. Now, she survived on scraps, cleaning jobs during the day, sewing torn clothes for neighbors at night. Her apartment walls peeled, her mattress sagged, and her heart ached with questions. "Why me?" she often whispered to the ceiling at night. "Why always me?" On one stormy night, as thunder rolled across the sky, Rose's umbrella snapped in the violent wind. Drenched and trembling, she paused under a flickering streetlight. Rain mixed with her tears. She whispered to herself, "Maybe this is all I'll ever be forgotten." Just then, headlights cut through the storm. A sleek black car slowed beside her, its door opening. A tall man stepped out, his suit damp with rain, his voice steady yet gentle. "Miss," he said softly, his deep eyes locking onto hers, "are you okay?" Rose froze, clutching her broken umbrella like a shield. The rain pelted her skin, her thin dress clinging desperately. She had learned to distrust kindness. Every smile she once believed in had ended in betrayal. The man stood tall against the storm, his navy blue suit darkened by rain. His presence felt powerful, but there was no arrogance in his voice. "Please," he said, extending his umbrella toward her. "You'll fall sick." "I'm fine," Rose muttered, her lips trembling. "I don't need help." But her voice cracked, betraying her weakness. The stranger tilted his head. "Sometimes being strong means letting someone stand beside you." Those words pierced through her walls. For a moment, she let herself breathe. Her fingers, cold and wet, brushed against his warm hand as she accepted the umbrella. He gestured toward his car. "At least let me drop you home. It isn't safe out here." Every instinct told her to run, but exhaustion weighed heavier than fear. Slowly, she stepped toward the car, sliding into the leather seat that smelled faintly of cologne and rain. As the city lights blurred past the window, Rose's heart raced.
Who was this man?
Why did his voice feel different, like someone who saw more than just her brokenness? She stared at the card in her hand, embossed in gold letters, Kweku Mensah and Company. Holdings. For the first time in years, she wondered, was fate giving her a second chance? Inside the car, silence stretched between them. Rose sat stiffly, her handbag clutched to her chest. She didn't belong in this world of leather seats and quiet engines. The man finally spoke, his tone calm. "I'm Kweku Mensah. And you?" "Rose," she whispered, almost ashamed of the name. "Beautiful," he said, as if it was the most natural truth. Her cheeks flushed, and used to such sincerity. She turned her gaze to the window. Outside, across streets pulsed with life. Vendors selling roasted corn, children laughing barefoot in puddles, buses honking wildly. It was the same city she lived in, yet tonight, it looked different through this stranger's lens. When the car pulled up outside her crumbling apartment building, shame burned in her chest. She reached for the door quickly, but Kweku's voice stopped her. "Wait." He held out his card again, his eyes steady. "If you ever need help, call me." Her hands trembled as she took it. People don't usually mean those words. Kweku gave a faint smile, one corner of his lips lifting. "Then let me be different." Rose stepped out into the rain, clutching the card like it was fragile glass. She didn't know if she'd ever call. But deep inside, something stirred, a flicker of hope she thought had died long ago. Days turned into weeks. Rose hid the white card under her pillow. Every night, she touched it before closing her eyes, then scolded herself. "Don't be foolish. No one stays. No one helps without wanting something." But hunger gnawed deeper. Job after job rejected her. Her landlord grew impatient, banging on her door. "Rose, if you don't pay this week, you're out." Her hands shook as she stared at the card. Dialing the number felt like leaping off a cliff. Yet, that night, with tears streaming down her face, she pressed the call button. The line clicked. "Rose," Kweku's voice came alive, deep and warm. "I was waiting for your call." She froze. "Waiting? Meet me tomorrow," he continued. "I have something for you." The next morning, dressed in her only ironed blouse and a faded skirt, she arrived at a towering glass building downtown. Mensa and Company. Holdings gleamed in gold above the entrance. She had never imagined stepping into such a place. Inside, marble floors reflected her nervous footsteps. Employees in suits glanced her way, some smirking at her worn shoes. Her cheeks burned. But then, Kweku appeared, tall and composed, his presence silencing the room. His eyes found hers instantly. "Welcome, Rose," he said, his voice firm yet gentle. "Your new journey starts here." Rose's heart pounded as she stood at the receptionist's desk. A woman in a crisp blazer eyed her up and down with disdain. "You're the one Mr. Mensa hired?" she asked, smirking. Rose's throat tightened. "Yes, I think so." Before humiliation could sink deeper, Kweku's voice cut through the air. "She doesn't think so. She is." His gaze silenced the whispers, his authority commanding respect. "Rose will start here as my receptionist. Train her well." The woman swallowed hard and nodded. That evening, Rose sat in her tiny apartment, staring at her reflection in a cracked mirror. For the first time, she wasn't invisible. Someone had chosen her. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I can still belong somewhere." Weeks passed. Rose learned to answer phones, manage schedules, and greet clients. But whispers lingered. Colleagues snickered at her second-hand dresses, mocking her behind her back. "She's just another charity case," one muttered. "Maybe she's warming the boss's bed," another sneered. Rose's hands trembled as she carried files, but when she glanced up, Kweku's steady eyes caught hers. His silent nod seemed to say, "Ignore them. You're stronger than this." That night, as they left the office together, he asked, "Why do you let their words cut you?" Her voice broke. "Because they only speak what I already fear about myself." Kweku's step slowed. He turned, his tone fierce. "You are not their words, Rose. You are more than what they see." But healing wasn't simple. Rose still carried her scars. At night, she cried silently, her body curled on her mattress. When Kweku noticed her sadness, he invited her to the rooftop of the office one evening. The city glittered below, alive with traffic and laughter. "Who hurt you this deeply?" he asked softly. Tears welled in her eyes. "Everyone," she whispered. "Family, friends, the man I thought I'd marry. They all left when I needed them most." Her voice cracked as the dam broke. She poured out years of pain, betrayal, loneliness. Kweku didn't interrupt. He just listened, his eyes soft with something rare, compassion without judgment. When she finished, he said quietly, "I don't see brokenness in you, Rose. I see a woman who survived storms others wouldn't." Slowly, life began to shift. Kweku started showing Rose the city she had stopped noticing. He took her to the art markets, where fabrics bloomed in colors brighter than the sun. He walked with her along the seashore, the waves crashing as children played nearby. One evening, he took her to a small jazz club. The music wrapped around her heart like warmth she had forgotten. For the first time in years, Rose laughed freely, her hazel eyes sparkling. She began dressing differently. Bright ochre dresses, her hair left free in curls. People noticed the change. The woman who once walked with bowed shoulders now moved with quiet grace. Kweku smiled as he watched her. "This," he said softly, "is the Rose the world was too blind to see." But the city was cruel. Rumors spread like fire through the office. "The boss has fallen for her," some whispered. "She's after his money," others accused. Rose's chest tightened each time she overheard them. Doubt clawed back into her heart. One evening, she confronted Kweku. I can't be the reason people talk about you, she said, tears brimming. They'll drag your name down because of me. Kweku stepped closer, his hand brushing away her tears. Let them talk. I don't see your pieces, Rose. I see the queen waiting inside you. Her heart trembled at his words. For the first time, she dared to believe. Maybe love could grow even in broken soil. Just when Rose began to believe in light again, shadows crept back. One afternoon, as she arranged files in the lobby, a familiar voice froze her. Rose. She turned sharply. Kwame, the man who once promised her forever, but left her broken. His expensive watch gleamed, his smile cruel. So this is where you ended up, he sneered. Clinging to another man. Clever. Her heart thudded painfully. Leave, Kwame. You don't belong here. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Tell me, does your boss know what you really are? A desperate girl who will do anything to survive. Tears stung her eyes. She had fought so hard to rebuild herself, but with a few words, he had reopened every wound. That evening, she avoided Kweku's gaze, terrified he might believe Kwame's poison. Rose ran from the office before sunset, her feet carrying her blindly through the crowded streets. Her chest burned, her mind screamed, he'll believe it. Everyone always does. Kweku searched everywhere. He stormed into bars, markets, even the art streets they once walked together. His anger wasn't at her. It was at the ghosts that still chained her. At last, he stood on his balcony. The city sprawled beneath him. He whispered into the night air. Don't you see, Rose? You are not broken anymore. You are mine to protect. He finally found her by the sea, barefoot in the sand, waves licking her ankles. Her dress clung to her frame, her eyes red from crying. Why did you come? She asked, voice trembling. Because I can't breathe knowing you're hurting, Kweku answered, stepping closer. But they're right, she choked out. I'm nothing. I'll ruin you. Kweku reached for her hands, his voice fierce yet tender. You can't ruin me, Rose. You complete me. Don't let their lies steal what we have. Tears broke free. For the first time, she let herself fall into his arms, sobbing as the ocean roared behind them. From that night, Rose's steps changed. She no longer avoided mirrors. She wore her colors proudly. She walked through the office with her head held high. Kweku stood beside her always, but he also encouraged her to rise alone. Your strength is yours, Rose. I'm only here to remind you of it. With his support, she launched a foundation for abandoned women, helping those who had been forgotten like her. Slowly, her name began to echo in the city, not as a broken girl, but as a voice of hope. Kweku watched her speak at gatherings, pride shining in his eyes. He had not given her a crown. She had built her own. Months later, Accra's grand gala glittered with lights. Politicians, businessmen, artists, all gathered in the ballroom. Rose entered in a flowing gold Ankara gown, her curls framing her glowing face. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Is that her? They whispered. The girl from nowhere? But tonight, she wasn't a whisper. She was a storm of grace. Kweku took her hand as they walked to the center. His deep voice carried across the hall. You all saw a broken girl, but I saw the queen within her. And tonight, I will show you the truth. Silence fell as Kweku knelt before her, a velvet box in his hand. The hall erupted in shock. Rose, he said, his voice steady, once the world left you behind. But I will never leave. Will you walk beside me, not as broken pieces, but as the queen you've become? Tears blurred her vision. Her hand shook as she whispered, Yes, yes, Kweku. The ring slipped onto her finger, and the crowd exploded in applause. Cameras flashed, music soared, and Rose's heart swelled with something she thought she'd lost forever: belonging. She was no longer clay shattered by storms. She was fire, reborn from ashes. And beside her stood the man who had seen her ruins and built her whole again. That night, under the golden lights of the city, Rose rose, not as the girl everyone left behind, but as a queen the world would never forget.